Previously on the game OverThinker, the anti-thinker returned, but not for long.
So, what am I supposed to call you, future man? My name is Clogs. Clogs Shoes. In my time, they call me Omega Thinker.
Who is the Omega Thinker? Why has he arrived? How much more mileage can we get from this Dragon Ball Z parody? Find out now on the game OverThinker!
Wow, so you're my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandnephew, Clogs? I mean, Omega Thinker? Pretty much, yeah. And Clogs is just fine. Wow, and it took them that long to invent time travel? What? No. You have time travel now. You're just not ready to know about it yet. So every time someone finds out, Jean-Claude Van Damme changes the time stream and fixes the problem. Wow, and it took them that long to invent time travel? Sure. Why does it smell like scrambled references in here?
That's funny. All I smell is half-assed green screen.
I was actually wondering where the music was. The what now? Well, you said this was a karaoke bar. Oh, no. This is Gary Oak's bar. See?
Your green screen is terrible, and you should feel terrible about it.
Anyway, you should probably start telling me about this RoboThinker stuff. Very well. Approximately one of your days from now, the world as you know it will cease to exist. But, according to what records have survived, the true danger begins 5 of your years into the past. Wait, is this going to be a really long story? Kind of? Oh, well, then we're going to have to do it after the show. Very well, if that is your custom. What's today's topic, anyway? I don't actually know. Hey, Ivan! Can we run another show from the backlog?
Ivan is hammered, and not at the office. So, gonna say, sure.
Ivan, where are you going?
Out.
Did you finish your game?
No.
Overthinking is work, Ivan. If you can't analyze a game, I'm not sure what you think you're interning for.
What am I interning for? A lot of the time it feels like I'm only called your intern instead of your assistant because it calls to mind the mundanity of an office job in a humorous contrast to the otherworldliness of my very being.
Just finish your game.
It's too hard.
Put it on easy mode.
Easy mode?
What?
I thought easy mode was bad now.
Says who?
The lead designer of Assassin's Creed 3.
Seriously? You know, this has been a bigger problem in game culture for way too long. It's part of the bigger problem of insularity. There's just far too many people who call themselves hardcore gamers who don't want gaming to be available to anyone but them and their particular culture. It's obnoxious enough when gamers are doing it, but when people in the industry start in, that's really worrisome, because it speaks to a pervasive mindset that's not healthy for us at all. After all, this is an industry that should be striving to be more inclusive, not less.
Now, in theory, I get the idea behind why some people hold challenge and playability sense as the core fundamental thing about a given game. After all, the very name game implies that it's a test of skill, that there's a bar to be reached, an element of competition, and that you can lose. And if you take that out, the game ceases to be a game. It becomes something else, I guess. Now, I have two basic problems with that outlook as it applies to video games. The first being that while, yes, the vast majority of games throughout human history have been based on challenge, difficulty, and rules meant to control those, they've also been malleable. You've been able to change the game, add or subtract rules based on the situation or terrain, change the ball or the tools or the field to make things more interesting. I mean, we're all familiar with this concept, right? This isn't news.
Here, let me give you an example. How many of you had the game Mousetrap when you were kids? Okay. Now, how many of you played the game all the time versus just setting up the little pieces and then watching the little Rube Goldberg machine go off? Yeah, that's what I thought. And hey, did you ever use a baseball to do anything other than play a full game of baseball? Well, then why should video games be any different?
The obvious answer is that video games aren't made of easily manipulable parts like balls or bats or game pieces. They're made of ones and zeros, and most people don't have the programming skills to hack, crack, or rework a game on their own. That's where things like difficulty settings and cheat codes and level selects and so forth came in, a way of acknowledging that not every player was up for or even interested in the very challenge but might want to see the later stages or try the cooler items or whatnot anyway. And there was nothing wrong with that. The challenge was still there for people who wanted it, and while the pursuit of challenge averting or augmenting strategies and cheats became a game in and of itself, and a lot of us, myself included, still call those days the golden age.
But weren't games actually much harder to begin with back then?
Hey, RetroThinker, you want to chime in on that one? Hi-yo!
For those of you just joining us, RetroThinker was cryogenically frozen from 1990 until about a year ago. Just go with it.
You want me to shine the what now? Ivan wants to know if games really were that much harder in your time. Oh yeah, Fairy Dude, totally. I mean, games were way harder in the 80s and 90s, but you have to remember that it wasn't an aesthetic choice. It was also mainly about games back then not having as much power in terms of graphics and sound and, well, especially memory and space. So really the only way they could make a game last really long or stay engaging was often to make it super, super difficult. I mean, when you look at them, most retro games are beatable in a couple of hours, really, unless we're talking about RPGs or something, but they're so difficult, playing through them can take you almost forever. I mean, I still haven't beaten the first Ninja Gaiden. I think we also have to consider the influence of the arcades, right? What about arcades? Well, it's just that a huge amount of Golden Age gaming grew out of the arcade culture, and games made for the arcades were designed to be as difficult as possible, often impossibly so, in order to make sure you spent a whole lot of quarters. I mean, that's why we still have a live system to this day. Whoa, dude, you're blowing my mind here, man. I'm gonna go back to shining things.
It's amazing how many people you can fit in one apartment once you start doing a web show.
Anyway, my other issue is, I'm sorry, but no matter how you slice it, this is just another example of the way some gamers don't want anyone who doesn't fit into the traditional gamer archetype to be joining in the fun. It's exclusionary.
A few months ago, a BioWare writer named Jennifer Hepler was targeted by an internet hate campaign that somehow got even worse than the mud that we sadly expect to be lobbed at anyone who dares to be a woman working in the game industry. The attack stemmed from an interview where she admitted that she wasn't much of a gamer herself and was more interested in the narrative aspects of the medium, and thought there should be an option for more story-centric gamers like her to skip the combat and gameplay sequences if they so chose. I didn't then and still don't now get what the big effing deal was with that. Honestly, I think it sounds like a good idea. If I can fast forward a DVD or skip ahead in a book, why not have the same option in a game? And even if doing so did somehow negate the point of whatever the designer was going for, why should that so suddenly be bothersome to a gaming community that so enthusiastically embraces modding and customization? The reason, of course, is that a lot of the hardcore gaming community has been trained to tie its identity to gameplay-related accomplishments. From the Golden Age onward, getting to the end, beating the last boss, seeing the end screen, etc. was how we measured accomplishment, just as in the arcades we'd measured by high score. So the idea of progressing through a game by dialing down the difficulty or simply skipping the gameplay at first sounds like anathema to them. That's not fair. Endings are your reward for hard work, right? Now, I get that, but here's the thing. Since we're not talking about a tangible reward like money or a cookie or whatever, guys, I'm sorry, but it just doesn't matter. You know you beat the game on hard or whatnot. What other acknowledgement do you need when it's such an innately personal accomplishment? What's more, it really doesn't matter now that the majority of games and or game platforms are tied to an achievement or trophy system, meaning that the game keeps a record of how much you accomplished versus easy mode users on its own. So why should easy mode or any other intended shortcut be any kind of issue anymore?
Yeah, why?
Why? I was kind of wondering that myself. Well, it's because the smug dismissals of easy modes or so-called Hepler mode is not really about achievement or purity or protecting gaming or hardcore gamers or anything else. It's about one thing and one thing only: exclusion.
The fact is, there are way too many gamers who are way too invested in the idea that this medium somehow belongs only to them, and in the idea that gaming has to remain this niche, off-the-grid thing that's only accessible to people in the know like them. This is the root cause of all this hate and bile. It's why there's this reflexive hatred of casual games and easy mode. It's why there's such a violent hatred to the idea of people who keep talking about women's issues or racial issues in regards to games. Because all of those things are manifestations that the audience for games has expanded, and these people can't deal with that. Now, those guys are obnoxious, yeah, and the whole culture of harassment and intimidation that seems to surround some pockets of hardcore gamer culture is a huge ongoing problem, but it's also a problem that's going to be solved. Sunlight is a spectacular disinfectant, and every day there are fewer troublemakers and more people with the means and intent to put them on the spot. But the idea that this kind of thinking has also permeated the world of game design, that's something people should be keeping an eye on and be calling out. Even setting aside how little business sense it makes to just post a big not welcome sign on your project targeted at anyone below a certain arbitrary skill level, it smacks of an insularity and a protectionism that this business already has more than enough of.
Hey guys, it's always kind of hard to find a place to end these things when the problem in question is ongoing and systemic, so we're gonna cut it off right there because I've got to jump in with this. Our next episode is gonna be another Q&A mailbag type thing, and this time it's open to everybody. But there's a big twist. This time your questions should be directed to and answered by me, Ivan the Intern. This is something I really wanted to do, and is in no way a punishment assignment for trying to blow off work today. Anyway, if you want to participate, here's how. Go to the comments section below this video you're watching right now on either Screw Attack or the Game Overthinker blog, and ask me anything about video games, pop culture, my adventures with the Overthinker, or just about me. Please remember to use a screen name or provide a name in your post, as anonymous questions will not be answered. If I've got to do this, I want to do it big, so make sure to like this week's episode on Facebook and tweet it to your friends. Follow the Overthinker on Twitter for news and updates on when new questions will stop being accepted. Alright, let's do this. I want to find out what you, want to find out.
Approximately one of your days from now, the world as you know it will cease to exist. But, according to what records have survived, the true danger begins 5 of your years into the past.
At a top-secret Yoyodyne propulsion facility near Alamogordo, a military scientist named Dr. Beardo extracted a mysterious white crystal from a meteorite. Beardo and his team discovered that the stone, while unpredictable in human hands, could harness and control both air currents and atmospheric electricity.
The 4th magic stone.
Yes, and charged with air magic, no doubt.
The scientists installed the stone into the chassis of an experimental military Predator drone. It was either that, or a plush doll of Fluttershy. But the drone won the coin toss.
No!
Hey, is Ivan a... Oh god, yeah.
Ivan likes ponies, Ivan likes ponies, Ivan likes ponies.
With the white stone negating the need for an engine or fuel system, Beardo's team were able to increase the drone's onboard digital memory 100-fold, effectively creating the most advanced artificial intelligence ever developed for combat. The robotic overhead battle operative for the tactical heavy impulse neutralization, killing, and elimination of really, really bad guys.
If this already happened, how do I not know about it? The truth has been kept from the public thus far, but that drone has won wars you didn't even know your country was fighting.
USA! USA! USA!
But the military thought it could get even better. Unfortunately, the drone's computer brain learned through experience, and there simply wasn't enough actual combat for it to learn from. So they found the next best thing: virtual combat.
I was wondering when this would start being about video games.
By the end of this century's first decade, video games and the internet had become inseparable entities. Almost every major game was expected to include an online multiplayer component, even those where it was unnecessary and detrimental to the overall point, and the most popular genre was unquestionably the military shooter.
I don't like where this is going.
The drone's controllers reasoned that by wiring its positronic brain to every known global gaming server, the drone could play thousands of matches 24/7 against unknowing human opponents, effectively transforming the entirety of the multiplayer shooter player base into a single massive tactical simulator. The drone was known to have operated over 70,000 separate simultaneous gold accounts on Xbox Live alone.
My tax dollars at work.
At first, the virtual training worked even better than they could have hoped. The drone's improvisational tactics and critical thinking increased 100-fold, but soon, problems began to appear. In late 2010, a viral video captured the drone attempting to teabag a downed Al-Qaeda jeep. 2 weeks later, it attacked 2 innocent villages in addition to the terrorist stronghold that had been its primary target. When queried, the drone answered that it was merely trying to extend its scoring streak. Then, in 2011, it attacked its own. With seemingly no provocation, the drone attacked a NATO combat platoon near Kabul. After that, the rogue drone ceased responding to queries, but data analysis indicated that it had attacked after conducting a scan of the platoon's use of rifle-mounted grenade launchers in combat.
Great Gino's ghost. He murdered them for spamming the noob tube? Yes, the most advanced cyborg combat unit ever created had the mind of a common Xbox Live troll.
Oh boy, we're gonna get letters for that one.
A stealth squadron was dispatched to take the drone out, but though destroyed, it did not die. Instead, it went off the grid, using the power of the White Stone to construct itself a new android body and renaming itself the RoboThinker. By the time RoboThinker attacked, you had already been killed by the Anti-Thinker, whose reign over our world lasted approximately 20 minutes. RetroThinker would fall next, and then Ivan, leaving us defenseless as RoboThinker began his single-minded quest for the ultimate achievement, the complete annihilation of the human race. Our only protectors are a line of elite warriors.
Let me guess. The Omega Thinkers.
Correct. By the time I took up the mantle, it had been 1,000 years, but the task is nearly done. What humans remain scrape by in caves, waiting for the end, until a few months ago, when we discovered the last active time portal and formulated a desperate plan to change history.
And so, here I am. Damn. The entire human race wiped out by some Chivo-hunting robo-douche. When do I fight him? That's just it, Overthinker. You don't.